I think Imani Ellis's attorney has severely underestimated Cardi B. Here's why. A trial is a plaintiff's show. So the plaintiff goes first, the plaintiff puts on the case. The plaintiff can put on the case for the jury in whichever order they feel is going to tell the story the best, is going to be most compelling for the jury. And so they get to choose when they call which witnesses up. They get to choose how they ask the questions, which other supportive witnesses they will put, which diagrams or documents they might show. They choose everything. It is their show. They've done all their work through discovery, collecting all the evidence. And by trial, there's no surprise, really. Everyone already has all of the evidence that is going to be presented at trial. The surprise element at trial is how it's put together, how the plaintiff and how the defense has decided to put their case together. A lot of which they control, some of which they can't, depending on witnesses and how the judge rules. So here, the plaintiff's attorney has decided to put on his client, Imani Ellis, on first. So on day one, after the opening arguments, he puts on his client. He has his client tell the story of what happened. She presents her story rather quickly, I might say. And then we get to day two, and he calls Cardi B. But he calls Cardi B as a witness, as a hostile witness. And what that means is that he can ask cross examination type questions. Those are questions like, isn't it true that blah, 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 so that you lead the witness to the answer that you want. So he calls her up and he starts questioning her about discovery. So he presents to her written discovery. Written discovery is usually prepared by the lawyers. Any responses on behalf of the client are signed and authorized by the client, but the legalese and that exchange, that's handled by the lawyers. So he shows her form and special interrogatories that had some response, and one of those was name all witnesses to the incident. And apparently, in that response, it doesn't state the name of her security guard. So he's presenting it to her and questioning her about whether or not the security guard was present for the incidents. And she testifies that, well, he wasn't there, he was in the lobby. And so he didn't see the incidents, but he is stuck on the fact that she didn't name him as a witness to the incidents. And so he's trying to impeach her, meaning prove or show that she's essentially lied under oath by saying, well, you didn't put it in your discovery responses, and now you're saying that he was in the lobby. Which one is it? And so this was about 20 some minutes into her testifying. And you can hear that the opposing side is objecting appropriately, I might add. And Cardi B is being very, very, very careful, like model witness. She's listening to the question. And like everybody else, she gets excited and wants to answer certain questions that she knows the answer to, and she catches herself. You can see more times than not, she's waiting to hear her own lawyer object and then waiting to hear how the judge is going to rule. So the minute she hears sustain, she doesn't say a word. that that is one of the hardest things for witnesses to do, is to know when to answer, when not to answer, when to pause. And like I said, there's a few instances where she speaks quicker than her attorney can object, but for the most part she's doing a very good job at listening to the exact question and answering the exact question. And the lawyer is leading her down this path to get her to sort of admit to something about the discovery that went wrong, but she's doing a very good job answering the exact question that she's being asked. And the reason why I think that her lawyer or not her lawyer, the lawyer of the plaintiff underestimated Cardi B, is that he thought that he could catch her or frustrate her on the stand and thereby, give a show to the jury that look at how not credible she is, like kind of piss her off in a way on the witness stand. And he didn't even take her deposition, which is the most confounding thing for me in this case so far, is how you had 5 years to depose her and you didn't. Now, there were deadlines and he missed it, but even still, it is completely confounding to me how we got to a trial about an incident and he didn't even depose the defendant. It makes no sense to me. Honestly, it's ripe for potential malpractice claim from the plaintiff, because that's a sort of a basic. Had he deposed her, he would know how she was going to handle the questions. He would know what her answers were, and then he would have sworn testimony that he could impeach. And so instead, he was trying to get a gotcha out of the discovery, and the judge has a recess, sends the jury away, sends them back into their black hole, and then argues with the lawyer and says, "What are you doing? Like, why are you asking these questions that about discovery and this and that?" And admonishes him that the proper way to deal with issues that you have with discovery is not at trial, not in front of a jury, but through a motion to compel or a motion for sanctions if you didn't get what you think you should have got. You didn't do either of those, so we're not having a dispute about discovery at trial at this point. So he was very clear in the recess. The judge was very clear that this is not appropriate and you need to move on. And also, they kind of had a back and forth about whether or not, it's relevant that this security guard is a witness or not. It doesn't really bear to the material facts of the case. So move on. In this same back and forth, Cardi's attorney said, "Your Honor, the plaintiff's counsel has also violated one of your motions in limine orders regarding asking questions about gang affiliation." It was one of his first or second questions to Cardi B. And the judge is like, "Yeah, I expect that there should be no other questions about that." And he turns to the plaintiff's attorney and says, "You knew that you shouldn't have asked that." And the plaintiff's counsel shockingly was like, "No, I didn't." And he's like, "Yeah, you did. It was in the order." Motions in limines are filed and opposed right before trial, like right before trial. Now, granted, it could have been filed a while back. Maybe the trial got continued. I don't know. But in any case, they're sort of one of the last things that gets filed and argued before the judge before a trial. And there must have been one about excluding questioning about gang affiliation. And the judge ordered that there should be no questioning on that. And he went ahead and asked the question anyways. Now, the objection was sustained and there was no answer. And, hopefully the jury is not tainted by the mere asking the question. But the fact that he's sitting here fighting with the judge saying, like, I didn't violate any order. The judge was like, "You need to go back into your trial binder and reread the order." That's not a good look for a plaintiff's attorney. It was really funny actually, because he actually pushed back on the judge and he's like, "Oh, the motion in limine was about prior bad acts." And the judge just straight up was like, "Nope, you might want to look at your trial binder." So he didn't get off to a great start that first day of Cardi B's testimony. Not very well prepared, thought he was going to get some gotchas to dismantle her credibility, but ended up just getting himself into hot water with the court.